All of us have experienced times of heartache and overwhelming sorrow, pain that we feel like we're alone, a feeling that we're unwanted, unloved, worthless, like we're trapped against a wall and we're completely by ourselves. Life can easily tear us down to the point of exhaustion, desperation, and failure. But Jesus understands the same feelings that we go through, and he's been through the same things. He found his answers, though, through prayer, and he commands us to do the same thing. Today's devotional is a story that we're all familiar with. It's Matthew 26, verse 37 through 46. It's about the scripture with Jesus coming to the Garden of Gethsemane with real needs and with real problems. Matthew 26, verses 37 to 38 is, "He began to be surrounded and troubled. Then he said to his disciples, 'My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death.'" To the point of death. The passage tells us that from his anguish, the sweat from his brows were like drops of blood falling to the ground. Medical research actually proves that under great emotional stress, our capillaries can burst and it creates bloody sweat. Jesus is going through a pain that no one can comprehend with, and that no one will understand, that we can't compare to at all. A pain that we say, "Oh, I failed the test. Oh, I'm going through troubles with my family or relationships or whatever." This pain is nothing compared to the pain that Jesus is going through at this time. His heart is troubled, and this is just after he ate with his disciples at the Last Supper. Jesus comes to the Garden of Gethsemane as a human struggling with fear, wrestling against his flesh, and yearning for relief. God was never more human than at this hour. The easy part of prayer is yielding to God when we don't know what we want or where to go. It becomes difficult, though, when we know what the answer is, yet we come up with excuses not to follow him, or we come up with a reason, or we ask God for more signs, for confirmation. Prayer is actually laying down before God the desires and burdens of our hearts. It is centering the attention away from ourselves and towards God, so we can absorb the truth of how he wants us to live. This was the war that was fought that night, a war of wills. John 3:30 says, He must become greater, and I must become less." Verse 42 of Luke 22 says, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but by yours will be done." Jesus came to the garden troubled, confused, and was struggling with the desires of the human heart. He needed to talk to his Father. The flesh was strong, but in the end, the desire to glorify the Father was greater. Philippians 2:8 says, "In being found in appearance as a human being, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even on a cross. Therefore, God exalted him to the highest place, and he gave him the name that is above every name." Even when Jesus had the opportunity to rebel, to do his own will, when Peter withdrew the sword against the guard and cut his ear off, in John 18, Jesus commanded Peter, "Put your sword away. Shall I not drink from the cup my Father has given me?" So even when he had the chance, he still followed God and surrendered to God's will and not his. When we hear what God actually has to tell us, and it's not what we want, we wonder what God is doing. We ask, doesn't he care for me? Doesn't he want my best interest? That's exactly what he's doing, though. By submitting to his holy, pleasing will, Jesus was exalted to the highest place. And like Jesus, we too will be strengthened when we submit to the hands of God.